Good evening and welcome back to Harmon Speaks. We've had a beautiful storm tonight, and so we're going to have a little bit of storm weather in here today as well. We're going to be talking today about the Down Syndrome Awareness Month. It is in the month of October, and we wanted to celebrate it by having in a couple who can talk to us a little bit about their family members who have Down syndrome. I have Jan and Wayne with me tonight. Say hi to the folks.
Hi.
Wayne and Jan.
How you doing?
There you go. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. Let's jump into it. What do you think?
Sure.
Now, Jan, tell me a little bit about what is Down syndrome.
Down syndrome is a chromosome abnormality that occurs, and it affects the 21st chromosome.
Okay. Sometimes it splits it. Sometimes it does other things, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's correct. So I have seen the shirts that say something about it's great to have an extra chromosome or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Okay. And there are some physical commonalities that you see among them. Tell me what some of those are.
The shape of the eyes, which is usually a little bit more slanted, in the middle of the hand, instead of having a palm that looks like this, their palm, they have a straight line that goes straight across.
Oh, okay.
Their fingers tend to be a little bit shorter.
Okay.
The back of their head is, your neck goes into the shape like that.
Okay.
Their neck tends to be a little bit flatter.
Okay.
They tend to be shorter than the average person. My guys are the shortest of 4'8" and the tallest of 5 feet.
Okay.
They are in their middle to late 40s to early 50s, so my guys are older.
Okay. Now I read today that in the 1960s, children with Down syndrome were expected to live to be about 10 years old. And now they live into their 60s, right?
Now it's the 60s,
Right.
although I do know of 2 people who are in their 70s.
That's fantastic.
But yes, usually in the 60s, and the reason for that is the antibiotics that they need because of their lung problems, their heart deficits, and the antibiotics, and just the medical care that they receive is so much greater than the past.
Right, that's true for all of us.
Yes.
So that's really great. Now tell me how Down syndrome made its way into your family. What happened?
It started with my older sister. When she was a child, we have a family member who is PKU, one of my cousins, and my cousin wound up being institutionalized, and it always bothered my sister that my mom couldn't take her. My mom couldn't afford another child. When my my grandmother basically took care of her. When grandma couldn't do it anymore, my mom just financially they were struggling themselves.
Right.
And my sister always felt like if I wasn't normal, something you wouldn't keep me. Right. So as my sister went to nursing school, there was in Wyckoff Heights in Brooklyn, the babies remained on the ward there, and she'd go there and feed them and play with them and saw how much they can learn. Okay. So when my mother got tired of driving a school bus, because of the behavior of the kids, she decided she wanted foster kids. And the funny thing is, our house was said to be too small until my mother said, well, I wanted kids with special needs. Right. And all of a sudden it grew big enough for 4 of them.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So your mom took in 4 children.
We adopted 4 children.
Right.
We had a total of 6 at one point.
Okay.
Over the time span. Okay. But we adopted the 4. Okay. And my parents fostered them from infancy. They were basically, all of them came directly from the hospital, anywhere from 5 days to like 7 days. Except for the oldest, he did not have a good heart, so for the first 3 months he was in the hospital.
Okay. And what was it like growing up with these children in your family?
I was 16.
You were already grown.
I was already 16. Kind of like my sister and I kind of reared them more than my parents was. As we got older, they got to be more like we were the main caregivers. My parents, of course, did a lot. Right. But we took on a lot as well, and I just loved them. They were just my babies.
Right. And tell me about when they're growing up. What are they like? Tell me, what did you like about raising them?
It taught me the importance of the little things in life. I remember crawling with my mother, my father, and my sister on the floor, trying to figure out how do we get them from the sitting up to being able to walk. And we literally crawled to figure out, well, what arm goes first? Is it your arm and your leg? And just realizing that's really what's important in life. It's not about how much money you make.
Right.
It's not about how many things you got. It's it's the love and teaching them to do things and watching them grow and watching them be able to walk. And there's simplicity of their love.
Right. And I've been around several kids with Down syndrome, and they were to a person the most loving people I think I've ever been around.
And they come and think they're rational. Sometimes it's like, okay, that makes sense if you stop and think about it.
Right.
It's just, I guess, purity.
Right.
Without all the other added.
Right. Did they go to school?
They, in my opinion, they were very lucky. They had the advantage of early intervention, which at that point in time, from the time, basically almost the time my mother got them, my mother and the baby went to early intervention program where they were teaching the parents, and the parents left the room for a while and they had their own little group. Then they went back and they were just working with the child, with the baby or the child, all the way up until I believe they were 3. And then at 3, they went to a program all day, and then they went to a BOCES program, which is a program that was a schooling that was just set up for them with their needs. So they had 2 different buildings. I liked it because they really focused on a lot of the things that the guys needed help with, like toileting. All of our guys were toilet trained. I'm gonna say by the age of 5.
Wow.
Because the school focused on that.
Right.
Teachers didn't say that ain't my job.
Right.
Leave it to the aide. That was in their IEP.
Right.
That was the focus.
Okay.
How to make sure they were able to eat correctly. They focused on their needs.
Right.
And then they had the advantage of being able to be in my brother took up drums because it was a school with children with disabilities, so he was able to play the drums and to do that. My sister did the was it in a choir. They were able to shine in the areas because they were competing with people with similar disabilities as them. My opinion, my generation, I think that was a blessing for them. I think that was the greatest gift ever, that they had that ability.
Okay.
I know it's not the in thing now, but for me, it was a big blessing. It gave them what I think they needed.
So when you moved to Tennessee, you brought them with you?
Yes.
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 Did they live with you? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
They've always lived with us.
Right, okay.
When I first got married, they lived at home with my mother and my sister. My father had already died. Shortly, 3 years after that, we moved upstate New York. Wayne and I lived in a mobile home, and my mom and the guys and my sister lived in the house that was on the same property. Then we moved to another house where we all moved into the same house.
Okay. Wayne, I'm going to jump to you now.
Sure.
Because he's falling asleep. Just kidding. Wayne, now you got married to her, and about 3 years later or so you had these kids move in, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yep.
Now, I was young once and married to a young woman once. Were you ever saying, oh, good Lord, this is too much? Why do we have all these people coming in?
When I first met Jan, she told me about them, and I thought about it. Okay, I have never been around people with disabilities or anything. I didn't know anything about it. And when I met Jan, she told me about the guys with disabilities, and at first I had second thoughts, but then the more I got to know Jan, and the more I got to know the guys, it's like I fell in love with all of them. You know, and I didn't have any more thoughts after, any more second thoughts after that.
That's
I
great.
thought, you know, this is.
So you were completely on board.
I was completely on board with
That's
it.
great. That's great. Did it take you a while to get used to interacting with these guys?
took a little bit. It took a little bit of time. It wasn't much time, but it did take a little bit of time.
What was the hardest thing to figure out?
I think the hardest thing to figure out is sometimes their speech is quite slurred because they do have an extra large tongue. Okay, right. And I think one of the hardest things is trying to understand when they talk.
Okay,
it's one of the hardest things. Usually, I turn on Jan, can you translate?
Right, I heard you say that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the hardest things. I think one of the hardest things too is that trying to, when you show them how to do something, you have to repeatedly show them and repeatedly show them. And when they don't, it does get a little frustrating at first, but then you just gotta sit back and have some patience.
Right.
And eventually they get it. Like, for example, John, you could teach him one thing one day, great, he's got it. Next day, what do I do?
Can't remember.
What do I do? You know, you gotta go back and reteach him again.
Sure. Okay.
And you gotta keep doing that until he finally gets it.
That is true with me as well, by the way. So.
Yeah, me too.
John is not a typical Downs. John is down along with a learning disability.
Okay.
When he was young, they explained to us that why that happens to John is we had to make John's life blue when we're teaching him colors.
Okay.
And then remember to remind him of the other ones. Well, the other guys, once they learned it, they learned it. John's got a learning disability on top of his Downs.
Okay. Well, it's great that you knew how to deal with that. That's great. Okay, so they went through school. Did they go through 12 years like most or more? Or
in New York, it was up until 21.
Right.
And they were in the BOCES program, and they graduated from that.
Okay.
They did try Jessie in the high school program. I think she started in the junior high, which is middle school, and really.
She went to the 8th grade.
Yeah, she really could not do it. My sister was wound up doing her homework. She really, hard as she tried, and she really is somebody who wants to be able to do things. She just couldn't keep up with it. She reads quite well, but she doesn't really absorb it. She couldn't interact with the kids on the same level. She couldn't do it. She tried, but she just couldn't do it.
Okay. But now that they've gotten through school, what do they do now?
When we were in New York, they were still a workshop program in existence. So 3 of them were in the workshop, working to whatever their abilities were.
What kind of workshop?
Well, the ARC was the workshop.
Okay.
Jean did basically putting together, sorting pieces.
Okay.
Jessie Ann and John could put things on the conveyor belt and could sort, so it was a little bit faster movement. John was able to use the sewing machine and sew the pants, the size of the pants.
Okay.
So it depends upon what they were able to do. The workshop within the last couple of years, people decided it was not a good thing. They needed not to be in the workshop, so that the workshop ended.
Okay.
Since we moved to Tennessee, they have been basically home with us, and we got them very involved in activities. They are involved in the Sunshine Ambassadors, which is a dance group that goes around Tennessee and performs, and they absolutely love their dance. And then we found the Bucketeers, which is a group that plays buckets, and they march in parades.
Right.
So they're involved in those 2 activities, and they help us. John does his wood burning, his wood crafting. Jessie does her dots. Jean just dances and loves to do what he does, his little magic. And Jimmy just loves his guitar and to sing in his microphone.
Nice. What does he sing?
Holy, holy, holy.
Nice. That's great.
You forgot the hallelujah.
Oh, hallelujah!
That's the most important part.
Yes.
That's great. That is just great.
And he loves it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Dance, guys. Jesse.
Now, one of the things, we're going to start wrapping this up here in a sec, but one of the things I heard from someone who's not a friend of mine, of you, which, in case you're curious, that's where you are, who made a statement that upset me. And I want you to help our audience understand why what this man said upset me. He made the comment that we were talking about Down syndrome, and he said, I just don't understand how they could have a good quality of life. And I stopped for a moment and I said, I don't believe you know how I can have a good quality of life. And I got up and walked away. Mm-hmm. That's just not acceptable. I don't have the patience anymore as an old man to sit and talk about that. Could you explain to me how
they have a
people
wonderful
have
quality of life.
Right.
People don't understand, in my opinion, what quality of life means. To a lot of people, quality of life means they're going to be the executive of a building, of a firm. That's not quality of life.
No.
Quality of life is enjoying what you do, being able to accomplish things and know what you accomplish, no matter if it's picking up your fork and feeding yourself. Whatever you accomplished, you can accomplish it.
Right.
That's quality of life. And doing things, not sitting in a room doing nothing.
Right, and they love you guys.
Right, and maybe that man was coming back from the era of institutions when that's all they did.
Right.
I mean, I can give you horror stories from work.
And that was the unfortunate quality of life
and that
they had then.
Yes.
Which was
Right.
nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Where, they're involved in doing things and they've got quality. It might be different than my quality or your quality or anybody else's, but it's still quality of life.
Right. Right.
I
don't know how you feel.
I think the main thing with quality of life is getting them involved in things that they can do instead of what somebody else wants them to do.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a little bit of research to find out what they can do.
Right.
Because they'll say, "Oh, this is okay," and they won't be able to do it.
Right.
But things that they can do where they're happy with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important.
Right.
Things that I know a few people from the north that wanted them to go to work on a regular basis and do this and you can be a welder, you can do this, you can do that, which really
No.
I can't do it.
Right.
I would not give John or Jean a welder.
Right. Right.
I would not do that.
Right. Right.
And that's what it is for me, a quality of life for them also. It's what they can do, what they can accomplish, what they can do, what they're happy with.
Right.
That's
right. When we think about quality of life issues, when I think what makes my life a life of quality, it doesn't have to go far. I have a wife I love, children I love, although they sometimes get in trouble. But I still love them. I have a church where I feel comfortable, and I have a faith that I believe in. That's all. And 3 squares a day, and I'm okay. Yeah. That's it, right?
Yeah. And even James, who is our lowest functioning of my 4 siblings, he gets so much out of church. Maybe not exactly what I get, but you can see he is getting so much. He loves to be able to say the last word of the sentence when we're repeating things out loud. He loves to try and sing a little bit and listen to the organist. He will not leave until the organist is totally done playing everything before he gets up to walk away, because he just loves the music. You can't tell me he doesn't get the love of God, because he does.
Right. Have some organizations in Knoxville been able to meet your needs and help you with what you need help with?
We're not from Knoxville, so it's kind of hard to answer that part. But you walk.
I'm sorry, from here.
Right, but that's okay. But Knoxville, when we first moved here 7 years ago, that's how we found the Sunshine Ambassadors. We would walk around the tables. My husband walked up to the table. He found them the Buddy Walk, the Sunshine Ambassadors. So we did find a couple of things through that. Harmon, the support we're getting is the help me, I always forget the name of it.
Oh, Emory Valley Family.
Oh, the Emory Valley Center.
Yes, they have done. They have been helpful. There's a family grant program that provides you with a little funds to help you, a grant fund to be able to take them on outings, to do whatever you need to help make their lives better and to make the family be able to support them.
Okay.
So yes, and then the state, we do get the extra help with their Medicare, so that they can get the Medicare with a little bit of the Tenacare, so that their needs, and it's not, Jimmy has so many physical needs, it just helps us.
Okay.
He's got a lot of respiratory problems, he has seizure disorder, and with this added monies, the added support from the state allows me to get the care I need for him. The added support from Emory Green allows me, I said it wrong, it's not Emory Green, allows me to...
Emory Valley.
Valley, thank you. I'm going to New York there. Emory Valley allows me to take Jimmy the distance I needed to take him to get some of the care, to get his mouth taken care of. I have to go to Nashville.
Okay.
That's a big cost for gas.
Right.
So, all those extras have helped us a lot.
What about moral support from other families?
The families we get the moral support from is the other ones within the programs we are involved in, such as Sunshine Ambassadors.
Right.
Those parents are really, really supportive. Our church.
Great.
Our church has been wonderful. I was a little nervous. The last church in New York was very supportive. When we moved, I was very fearful. I didn't know how they would be accepted, because when they were little, we were told not to come back to church because we had the kids. So when we moved, I was a little nervous, and my church has openly accepted, our church has openly accepted them as part of the congregation.
I cannot imagine the church saying they wouldn't accept you because of your children.
Yeah, and they were babies, they were young, they were toddlers.
Well, I can't imagine that. I'm sorry you went through that. That must have been...
One thing I can say for the community as a whole is that they've been very accepting towards our guys. I was a little nervous when we first moved down here. We were making trips back and forth between New York and Knoxville here. And I told Janice, let's take the guys down, show them everything, right? And I was particularly watching everybody, the community themselves, different people and everything, and their reaction to the guys. And they were very supportive. They were very kind to them, and they welcomed them.
Great.
And that's what made me decide we're going to Knoxville. So...
We wound up
to
in
the
Harmon.
community, thank you. It was really good.
Well, that's great.
So we like to hear that.
Yes.
And
As lifelongers.
I'm hoping as time goes by, the community will become more and more accepting. It's one of the reasons why Neil and I do this show, so they can see that people with disabilities are people first, right? People first. Thank you for doing the show. We're glad to have you here today. I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you for
I
having
think
me.
it's amazing, and I hope I get to meet the rest of the family at some point.
Anytime.
I would love that.
Anytime you let us know.
Anytime you want to film them, we'll bring them down and
Just be ready for John and Jesse to talk off your ear.
Well, I'm used to that. No problem. No problem. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us tonight. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. We're still struggling with the numbers, and if we're going to keep on YouTube, we have to convince them that we've got some people behind us. Please help us out. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.